Picture this: the grand ballroom of the Meridian Hotel, San Francisco. Crystal chandeliers casting golden light across marble floors. The who's who of Silicon Valley gathered in designer gowns and tailored suits, champagne glasses catching the light like tiny stars. This is the annual Tech Innovators Gala, where billion-dollar deals are whispered over appetizers and the next unicorn startup might be discovered between the salad and the main course. Everyone here believes they know exactly who matters. They can spot a venture capitalist from across the room. They know which handshake might lead to a seven-figure investment. They've studied the guest list like it's scripture, memorizing faces, net worths, and LinkedIn profiles. But here's what they don't know: the most powerful person in this room is about to walk through those doors, and not a single one of them will recognize her face. At 7:15 p.m., exactly when the invitation specified, a black woman in her late 30s enters through the main doors. Her name is Amara Johnson, though the name on most of her shell companies and investment vehicles reads differently. She's wearing an elegant navy dress, simple pearl earrings, her natural hair styled in a professional twist-out. Nothing flashy. Nothing designed to attract attention. And that's exactly how she wants it. Amara doesn't do red carpets. She doesn't pose for tech magazine covers. When Forbes called her for an interview last year, she politely declined. When TechCrunch tried to photograph her at a startup launch, she somehow managed to be in the restroom every time their photographer looked her way. See, Amara Johnson has built a $300 million investment portfolio by being invisible. While other investors fight for spotlight and recognition, she moves through the shadows, identifying brilliant founders that others overlook, writing checks that change lives, and walking away before anyone can attach her face to her fortune. Tonight's event is actually a showcase for one of her investments. 6 months ago, she put $20 million into a startup called NeuralPath, a company developing AI-driven financial literacy tools for underserved communities. The founders, two brilliant engineers from Howard University, had been turned down by 17 other investors. Too niche, they were told. Not scalable. Not the right demographic. Amara saw what others missed. She always does. She crosses the ballroom floor with quiet confidence, nodding politely at a few faces she recognizes from board meetings and conference calls where her camera was always, conveniently, not working. Most people glance past her without a second look. In their minds, they're already categorizing her. An employee of one of the startups, perhaps? Someone's assistant? Certainly not an investor. Not at an event like this. Amara has learned to read these glances. She's been reading them her whole life. The assumptions. The instant calculations people make based on her skin, her gender, her understated appearance. She doesn't get angry anymore. Anger is exhausting, and Amara has better ways to spend her energy. Near the front of the ballroom, the VIP section is marked off with velvet ropes and reserved seating cards. Table 1, Seat 3. Her seat. Confirmed by her assistant 3 times because at events like these, even confirmed reservations have a way of mysteriously disappearing when your name doesn't carry the weight of recognition. She approaches her seat, sets her clutch on the chair, and glances around the room. The NeuralPath founders are backstage, nervous but prepared. She texted them encouragement an hour ago from an unlisted number. They know their mysterious investor might be in attendance tonight, but they've never met her in person. All their meetings have been through intermediaries or video calls with her camera off. This is how Amara operates. This is how she's built an empire while everyone else was building a brand. But here's where our story takes a turn. Across the room, cutting through the crowd like a yacht through choppy water, comes Ethan and Claire Whitmore. And if you don't recognize those names, well, they'll certainly make sure you do. Ethan Whitmore, 42. Founder of a moderately successful fintech company that was acquired 3 years ago for a sum that was impressive but not quite spectacular. He's been dining out on that success ever since, attending every gala, every tech conference, every exclusive party, as if that one exit makes him Silicon Valley royalty. His suit probably costs more than most people's monthly rent. His watch definitely does. Claire Whitmore, 38, is a tech journalist turned influencer turned entrepreneur, which is to say she's someone who tweets about innovation without actually innovating much herself. But she has 200,000 Instagram followers and a TED Talk about disrupting traditional career paths, so she's carved out a niche as a thought leader, that curious title people give themselves when they don't want to explain what they actually do. Together, they are the embodiment of tech scene peacocking. They know everyone. Or rather, they know everyone they think matters. They're always at the right parties, always in the background of the right photos, always casually dropping names of founders and investors they claim to be close with. And right now, they're headed straight for the VIP section. Straight for table 1. Straight for the seat where Amara's clutch is resting. Amara watches them approach. She can read the room's energy shifting. Other guests step aside automatically. There's a pecking order at events like these, and the Whitmores have positioned themselves near the top through sheer force of presence and persistent self-promotion. "Excuse me," Claire says, not to Amara, but to the space around her, as if Amara is part of the furniture. She reaches past Amara and picks up her clutch without asking, holding it between two fingers like it might contain something distasteful. "This seat is VIP. Reserved seating." Amara looks at her calmly. "Yes, I know. It's reserved for me." There's a moment where Claire actually laughs. Not a polite chuckle but a full laugh, like Amara has just told an amusing but slightly absurd joke. "Sweetheart," and here she emphasizes that word in a way that manages to be both patronizing and dismissive, "this is VIP. This table is for investors and major sponsors. I'm sure you can find a seat somewhere else." She gestures vaguely toward the back of the ballroom, toward the general admission area. Ethan has now joined his wife, and is sizing up Amara with the kind of look that says he's already made his assessment and found her wanting. "Claire's right. These seats were hard to come by." He speaks slowly, carefully, as if perhaps English might not be Amara's first language, or as if she might be confused about how exclusive events work. "People should know their place at events like this." His tone. That phrase. People should know their place. The words hang in the air like smoke. Around them, conversations have stopped. Phones are coming out of pockets, not obviously, but discreetly angled. This is the kind of moment that goes viral. This is the kind of confrontation that becomes a thread on Twitter and a case study in corporate diversity training seminars. Before we continue, I need you to do something. If you're finding this story compelling, if you want to see how this plays out, hit that subscribe button right now. Because trust me, what happens next is going to redefine everything you think you know about power, presence, and presumption. Subscribe so you never miss a story like this. Now, here's what you need to understand about Amara Johnson. She has been in rooms like this her entire adult life. She graduated top of her class at Wharton Business School, where she was often the only black woman in the room. She built her first company at 25, sold it at 28 for $12 million to a buyer who spent the first meeting asking if the real founder was running late. She sat across negotiating tables from men who directed their questions to her male assistant instead of her. She's been called articulate like it's a surprise, intimidating when she's simply competent, and difficult when she dares to negotiate as aggressively as her male counterparts. She has seen every microaggression, weathered every assumption, overcome every obstacle that people like the Whitmores have never had to consider. And somewhere along the way, she learned something crucial. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply to let people reveal exactly who they are. So Amara doesn't yell. She doesn't make a scene. She doesn't pull out her phone to call event security or demand to speak to the organizers. Instead, she looks at Claire, then at Ethan, and she smiles. It's a small smile, knowing, almost amused. "You're absolutely right," she says quietly. "People should know their place." And then she steps aside. She picks up her clutch from Claire's fingers, gracefully, without rushing, and she moves to stand near the edge of the VIP section. She doesn't argue. She doesn't fight for her seat. She simply waits. The Whitmores settle into the seats like conquering heroes. Claire adjusts her dress, smooths her hair, making sure she's photo-ready for the Instagram stories she's already planning. Ethan checks his phone, responding to messages with the satisfied air of someone who has just reinforced the natural order of things. Around them, the crowd's discomfort is palpable. You can feel it in the nervous glances, the cleared throats, the way conversations restart but with less energy than before. A young Asian man at the next table leans over to his companion and whispers, "Did that just happen?" His friend shrugs, uncomfortable but unsure what to do. An older white woman looks like she wants to say something, but she doesn't. This is how these things work. This is how injustice often unfolds, not with dramatic confrontations but with the collective decision of good people to do nothing. But here's what nobody in this room knows yet. Here's what's about to unfold in the next few minutes that will turn this evening into tech industry legend. At the front of the ballroom, the event coordinator is doing a final sound check. The founder showcase is about to begin. 5 startups will present tonight, each with a 5-minute pitch to introduce their company to potential investors, partners, and press. Neural Path is up first, the headline act, the company everyone's been talking about since their beta launched 3 weeks ago to extraordinary response. The lights dim. A spotlight illuminates the stage. The room settles into attentive silence. Ethan and Claire lean back in their VIP seats, ready to be impressed, ready to mentally calculate which startups might be worth their attention, which founders might be worth connecting with on LinkedIn tomorrow. And then the host, Marcus Chen, a well-known tech journalist and moderator, takes the stage. He's holding notes, smiling that professional smile that says something important is about to happen. Good evening, everyone. What an incredible turnout tonight. Before we begin our startup presentations, I want to take a moment to recognize someone very special. Someone who made this entire evening possible. Amara, standing at the edge of the VIP section, takes a quiet breath. She knows what's coming. Her assistant warned her that the organizers wanted to recognize her publicly tonight, despite her requests to remain anonymous. She tried to decline, but they insisted. The Neural Path founders had specifically requested it. They wanted the world to know who believed in them when no one else would. Marcus continues, the tech industry talks a lot about disruption, about innovation, about seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. But tonight, we have with us someone who actually lives those values. Someone who has quietly become one of the most influential investors in emerging tech, with a portfolio that focuses on companies and founders that traditional investors overlook. The room is listening now. People are trying to guess who he's talking about. Eyes scan the VIP section, looking for familiar faces. Several people glance at the Whitmores, assuming the recognition might be for them. Ethan straightens his tie. Claire puts on her most gracious smile. She doesn't seek headlines or magazine covers. She doesn't tweet about her investments or post about her wins. She does something much harder. She identifies brilliance in places others refuse to look, and she backs it with resources, expertise, and unwavering support. Marcus pauses for effect. The spotlight operator is ready. Cameras are positioned. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join me in welcoming the lead investor and strategic advisor for Neural Path, and the largest financial contributor to tonight's event, Ms. Amara Johnson. The spotlight swings away from the stage. It moves across the ballroom, past the general seating, past the curious faces, and it lands exactly where Amara is standing. At the edge of the VIP section. Where she was forced to stand moments ago. Where the Whitmores pushed her. For 3 full seconds, the room is absolutely silent. You could hear a champagne bubble burst. And then the sound hits. Applause. But not just polite recognition applause. This is the sound of revelation, of shock, of a narrative completely rewriting itself in real time. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Phones that were already out are now recording openly. Whispers explode into urgent conversations. Wait, that's her? She's the investor? Oh my God, those people took her seat. Did you see what just happened? This is the woman who funded Neural Path. Someone said she's worth over 300 million. They had no idea who she was. This is unbelievable. At table 1, in the VIP section, Ethan and Claire Whitmore have gone completely still. The color has drained from their faces. They are sitting in seats that don't belong to them, seats they took from the guest of honor, seats they claimed through entitlement and assumption, and now the entire ballroom knows it. Amara walks forward, graceful and unhurried, as if she's simply taking her evening stroll. The crowd parts for her like water. People who didn't notice her before are seeing her now, really seeing her, perhaps for the first time recognizing that power doesn't always announce itself with flash and noise. Sometimes it moves quietly until the moment demands otherwise. She reaches the stage, shakes Marcus Chen's hand, and stands before a microphone facing hundreds of people who just witnessed her being humiliated, and who now understand exactly what they saw. But before Amara speaks, something else happens. Something that will be replayed in video clips and dissected in think pieces and discussed in business school classes about leadership and crisis management. Two security personnel, professionals who know exactly who's on the VIP list and who isn't, approach table 1. They speak quietly to the Whitmores, but in the silence of the ballroom, their words carry, "Excuse me, but these seats are reserved. We're going to need you to relocate." It's not aggressive. It's not dramatic. It's simply the enforcement of reality. The Whitmores don't belong in those seats. They never did. Claire tries to explain, her voice rising slightly, but we were told. She stops because she wasn't told anything. She assumed. Ethan stands, attempting to maintain dignity, but his face is red, whether from embarrassment or anger or both. They gather their belongings under the gaze of hundreds of witnesses and hundreds of phone cameras, and they are escorted, not roughly but firmly, away from the VIP section. Away from the seats they stole. Away from the woman they dismissed. The ballroom watches in stunned silence. This isn't just about a seating mix-up. Everyone understands the layers here. Everyone saw what happened. Everyone knows what this means. And now Amara, standing on that stage with perfect posture and calm presence, begins to speak. Thank you for that warm welcome. Though I have to admit, I usually prefer my entrances to be a bit less dramatic. The room laughs, a release of tension, grateful for her grace. I'm going to be honest with you tonight. I didn't want to be recognized publicly. I fund companies because I believe in their mission, not because I want credit. But the founders of Neural Path insisted, and when you believe in someone's vision the way I believe in theirs, you show up for them, even when it's uncomfortable. She pauses, and you can feel the room leaning forward. What you all witnessed a few minutes ago is something that happens more often than you might think. Not always so publicly. Not always so obviously. But it happens. People make assumptions based on what they see rather than who they are seeing. They decide who belongs and who doesn't based on appearance, on recognition, on their own limited understanding of what power and influence look like. Amara's voice is steady, not angry but clear. In the tech industry, we talk about disruption constantly. We celebrate founders who think differently, who see opportunities others miss, who challenge the status quo. But if we're honest, we often only celebrate that disruption when it comes from people who look like the investors, who went to the right schools, who have the right connections. We say we want innovation, but we fund familiarity. Tonight is about celebrating companies like Neural Path, founded by two black engineers from Howard University who were told their idea wasn't marketable enough, wasn't scalable enough, wasn't quite right for institutional investment. 17 investors passed on them. 17. Not because their business model was flawed, time has proven it's brilliant. Not because their technology was questionable, it's revolutionary. But because they didn't fit the pattern of what success is supposed to look like. I invested in Neural Path because I recognized myself in their journey. I recognized every time I was underestimated, every time my capabilities were questioned, every time someone assumed I didn't belong in the room where I had earned my seat. And I decided a long time ago that if I ever had the resources and the platform, I would make sure that other people who are underestimated get their chance. The applause that follows isn't polite anymore. It's thunderous. It's people on their feet, recognizing not just the words but the moment, the teaching opportunity that just unfolded in real time. Amara concludes simply, respect isn't about who has the biggest name or the flashiest reputation. It's about character. It's about how you treat people when you think no one important is watching. Because here's the truth, everyone is important. Everyone deserves dignity. And you never know who might be sitting in the seat next to you. She steps away from the microphone to a standing ovation. Marcus Chen returns to the stage to begin the presentations, but everyone knows the real story of the evening has already been written. And somewhere in the back of the ballroom, escorted to general seating far from the spotlight, Ethan and Claire Whitmore are learning a very expensive lesson about assumption, entitlement, and the price of forgetting that respect is earned not by what you wear, but by how you treat the person no one else is paying attention to. Here's my question for you. Have you ever witnessed a moment where someone was judged unfairly based on appearance, only for the truth to be revealed later? How did people react? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one. Because the best stories aren't just about one person's triumph. They're about all of us learning to see people for who they really are, not who we assume them to be. And maybe, just maybe, thinking twice before we decide someone doesn't belong in the seat right next to us.